Order. Question number 7. Order. Question number 7, Metiria Turei.
Tēnā pū, Mr Speaker, tēnā koutou I te whare. Point of order, sir.
Point of order, Metiria Turei.
I seek leave to have this question transferred back to the Prime Minister, to whom it was originally directed.
No, we're not even putting that leave. It's been discussed on many occasions. The government has the right to determine where the question goes. If the member wants it answered, she should proceed to answer it.
Mr Speaker.
Order. A little less noise would be helpful. Question number 7, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister in charge of the New Zealand Security Intelligence Service. Does he stand by the Prime Minister's statement regarding the legislative framework of New Zealand's intelligence agencies that, quote, there are a range of deficiencies that they have identified, end quote?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Yes, although the Prime Minister made that statement about the New Zealand Security Service Intelligence Act 1969, not as the member said, quote, the legislative framework of New Zealand's intelligence agencies, unquote.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
What specifically are those deficiencies?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
The particular deficiency that I would identify is that the Act was last comprehensively reviewed in 1969 and is expressed in 1969 language, and also focuses very heavily on issues of warrants and authorisations, and it may not accurately reflect all of the current work of the agency.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Do these deficiencies mean that the SIS is currently engaged in activities that are not authorised by the law?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
No, the word deficiency doesn't signal necessarily a contravention of the law. It suggests the inability to do something that it would otherwise be useful to do. It may also, in my opinion, suggest the difficulty of applying language drafted in 1969 to modern technology. These are matters for the reviewers to consider, and I'm sure both reviewers are going to do a very professional and competent job.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
So what did the director of the SIS mean when she said that, quote, the authorising framework for all of that work is not in the legislation, end quote?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Well, the director could have been referring to, for example, an ordinary everyday activity of an employee of the SIS and talking to people. And it may be that it's adequate to spell out in the legislation all the various activities of SIS employees when undertaking their tasks.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Will the Minister rule out any expansion and extension of the SIS current powers to spy on New Zealanders?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
The term spying on New Zealanders is pejorative. What the SIS is doing is, in actual fact, ensuring that all New Zealanders can enjoy the liberties that they were entitled to from the day they were born. What I'm going to do for the benefit of the honourable member is wait until the review has been completed by Dr Cullen and Dame Patsy Reddy, and then I hope to be able to see legislation drafted which reflects modern conditions and is expressed in modern language.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Metiria Turei.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Will the Minister rule out any expansion and extension of the GCSB's powers to spy on New Zealanders?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Well, I could repeat myself. I probably will for the benefit of that member who doesn't seem to have listened to the previous answer. The purpose of the GCSB is not to spy on New Zealanders, but is to, as expressed in its legislation, to safeguard the liberties of New Zealanders, particularly against foreign threats. And this government has undertaken a review of all the intelligence legislation to ensure that it is up to date and that it serves, both agencies serve their core purpose of operating under the rule of law to protect and enhance the freedom of all New Zealanders, and moreover, any agency that has great powers must necessarily be properly supervised by Parliament and by the Inspector General.
Question number 8, Alfred Naro.
Thank you, Mr.